Can we walk this road together? I can't travel it alone. I need someone beside me to help me find my way back home.
Hello, this is Dan Prinzing, Executive Director of the Wasmus Center for Human Rights in Boise, with Adam Thompson.
Hey there.
Welcome to Voices of Idaho. Today we're talking with Idaho art educator Linda Buczynski. I'd like to note that Linda was honored as our Human Rights Educator of the Year in 2015. Linda, to start us off, what motivates you to integrate a human rights focus in art instruction?
Well, Dan, I could say that art as a language is mankind's first language. So before there were words and stories and the choice between how you use the words or not use the words, there were pictographs and hands on the wall and representation visually. So I think that it is our innate at heart language.
Thank you. Well, a lot of what we have worked together on, you as the educator, we as an education center, has brought the spiral of injustice into the classroom. What about that particular concept of the spiral relates in your own experience?
Well, I'm very lucky because not only am I an elementary art education teacher, but I also teach at the university level. So those tools I get to use dually, both with young people when we are studying art and human rights and what that looks like, and also at the education level for pre-service teachers to use as tools in their future classrooms where they can take that and move forward with them in their classrooms.
Do you find, is there a particular level of this spiral that is most applicable in your instruction?
Well, at the elementary level, it's definitely language because at the elementary level, we are all learning how to be communicators, and that verbal language is very important.
So when you're talking with especially early learners, what are we telling them about words?
Well, what we're telling them, and especially being an educator, all schools have their own group of words that describe how they want to raise society, right? How we want to be good civilians and citizens in the world. So those words are of character, like being principled or reflective or caring. And along with that is how to implement those words when you are in dialogue with other students and other people.
Do you find that in framing your instruction through the use of the lens of the spiral, do kids get it?
They understand a spiral. They love spirals. And so with very basic kids, when I show, or the kindergartners and first graders, so basic learners, let's say, I would show them the spiral and I would replace the words on the spiral. So because we have to have age-appropriate vocabulary for kids to understand. So when we're at the base or the top of that spiral, it's language. So words that fourth and fifth graders understand when we talk about being introspective or being tolerant or diversity in general. When we go to a kindergarten and a first grade level, we use very simple terminology like respect and caring and kindness. So you take those basic words and they become more complicated as the student grows older.
Do you find that there are issues or encounters in the school setting that are a challenge to language?
Oh, well, absolutely. And those challenges are also constant opportunities for awareness and helping kids to use positive tools for themselves to become more aware and kinder to others. So on the playground, there is a plethora of conversations that go on. And often I'll have someone scuttling up to me saying, teacher, they said that I talk funny. right? And so instead of placating the child and walking away, I get drawn into the conversation. So therein lies the gift of asking questions and having the kids ask themselves and each other those questions so that they might make a different choice next time.
This is Canyon Bushbacher's Why Hate. Do we have our own safe places? The places we claim to be our safe places can't really be perfect. We can think that it is, but it isn't. Places where we can dance alone with no embarrassment. And no one can take that away. But what could hatred do? Hatred is strong. Strong to avoid. It surprises you in the deepest, darkest cracks, in the trusted places where you don't expect it. In your friends, in your family, and jealousy's right beside you. Humans say, hate, it's cruel, but we all find ways to hide it. You can't put out a fire without water, and you are the water. When the hardest times in our lives come around, we become vulnerable. This is when someone strikes. You think you are strong, but no one can truly resist. No one. Why hate when you can love?
So, Linda, we just left it with the idea that you're stepping into a conversation with students. That lends itself to our concept of being an upstander.
Yes.
Stepping in to confront, speaking out. How does that play out on the playground or in the classroom?
Well, it's got to start one way or the other. It's kind of like what came first, the chicken or the egg. And so the conversations that happen are born from the situations that might be uncomfortable and challenging. And then that leads to another conversation that could be held in the classroom where we talk about awareness and how we feel when things are happening to us. So young children really relate to themselves and how they feel. They're very egocentric. So when we show them another perspective, well, how would you feel if something that was hurtful was said to you? How would you feel? What would you do differently next time? Then they can use that reflection in the next time they are on the playground or in the hallways.
For you as an educator, for you as just a member of our community, where do you go for support to be an upstander?
Oh, well, of course, as a teacher, faculty and staff and administration are always great places to get support. And in that aspect, we go out into the community. So the Wasmuth Center has actually been crucial for my own personal blooming of my heart for awareness and the desire to take these messages to my students and out into the community. I've attended myriad workshops during the summertime for teacher credit. I've participated in online reading classes where I learn new things from new writers that I had never known before. And I just say new because I didn't know they had existed. And also there are opportunities to participate at the state level, so to bring my students into the work, into the mix so that they can participate also.
So how would you define being an upstander?
Well, it's so simple, and it's such a lovely play on words, and it is the opposite of bystander. And the funny thing is when my students discover that play on words, they think that they had just discovered it for the first time. Because I am not just standing by, they say. I am standing up. And so, but how do we stand up? And it again, back to that conversation. How do we get courage? So we become aware of how we feel. We step forward, we stand up, and we say to that person, what makes you think that that's okay? And that's all we have to do is start with a question. And then they feel emboldened to use those questions on their classmates.
Linda, we're talking about language. What about the words that you heard as a child?
We all have stories like that. We have very early memories of something that happened that changed us. And so when I was very young, probably 4th grade, I got braces on. And I have always been tall. So what I got from my classmates was skinny mini brace face, skinny mini brace face. And it really affected me. You know, I didn't know what to say, and I don't have any memory of anyone standing up for me. But I would talk to my mom about it and my dad when I would get home, and they would say, hold your chin up high because someday those braces will come off and you will have a beautiful smile. So sometimes we have to be our own upstander and take that bravery and courage to another level.
And I'm just curious, is that like maybe one of the reasons why you wanted to be a teacher too, to kind of help stand up for the kids that were being bullied in a sense?
Well, absolutely. It's a desire for advocacy. All of our experiences are, if we have the courage to go and make that happen. Absolutely.
Linda, obviously in your discussion, we're highlighting the power of words and that words matter. Well, as we know, the Idaho Anne Frank Human Rights Memorial is filled with words. Is there a favorite quote of yours that rings out from the memorial?
Well, and I jokingly say that I can look anywhere and love it and shed a tear over it. But today, my favorite is by Margaret Mead. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has.
Ladies and gentlemen, Voices of Idaho. Not in our town, not in our state. Idaho is too great for hate. Thank you.
With you right here beside me, we'll find our home with peace again.
My father joined Jim and I for one dinner together early on in our relationship and then never did so again. Neither he nor my stepmother attended our commitment ceremony. Birthday and holiday cards to me stopped, and we were never invited together to any kind of family gathering at their home.
Hey there, thanks for listening to this episode of the Wassmuth Center podcast. Big thank you to Linda Buczynski for coming on the podcast this week. That clip you just heard was from Steve Martin, the Idaho Regional Officer for the Pride Foundation. You can hear his story next Monday, September 1st. The Voices of Idaho is created by Dan Prenzing and produced and edited by me, Adam Thompson. See you next week.